When Liana opened her eyes one day, she was stunned to find herself inside an unfamiliar cell. Confusion swept over her as she took in her surroundings. "Prison," she murmured, trying to grasp the situation. The cell was dark and grim, and the realization struck her. She was in Central Prison Cambericum. At first, everything felt surreal. The flowers bloomed, the leaves fluttered, and Liana struggled to reconcile her new reality. She had come to terms with being Liana in a world that seemed eerily similar to the romance novel she had read long ago. It wasn't just the setting that was familiar. It was the entire plot. She was trapped inside a story. In the novel, the heroine Franca, while on a secret stroll, discovered a man imprisoned deep underground. This man, Lichterland von Hell, was held captive because his family's power had driven him to act like a beast. Franca, feeling pity for him, freed him from his chains, despite his loss of reason due to his overwhelming power. This was just the beginning of a complex love triangle involving the villain, the sworn enemy of the male lead. Liana found herself in an R-rated romance novel, though the situation felt absurd to her. The most ridiculous part was that she was a minor supporting character who was never mentioned in the novel's plot. The place where she first awoke, Cambericum Prison, was the very first stage of the novel. Accepting that she was inside a novel was a challenge, but what struck her as even more astonishing was the realization that it was 4 years before the events of the novel began. This meant that the male lead, Lichterland von Hell, was still in the dungeon. Liana squinted, trying to see further into the dungeon from her cell. She wondered what she might discover if she ventured a little closer. Just as she was about to take a step, a voice interrupted her thoughts. "Liana, you can't go in there," came the stern warning. "Oh, mister," she replied, "just a little bit more." She was determined to find out what lay beyond, no matter the risks. As Liana peered through the narrow slit in the dungeon wall, she was interrupted by Hans, the guard who had been keeping an eye on her. "You? Be but that," Hans stammered, his face showing a mix of concern and exasperation. "You know that isn't a good idea, right?" Of course," Liana replied, her tone nonchalant. "You know I'll be dead if the warden finds out about this, right?" Hans sighed. "I'm good at keeping secrets, you know." "That's not what you said last time," Hans retorted, clearly recalling a past incident. "Is that so?" Liana asked innocently, though she knew she was pushing her luck. "In the first place," Hans continued, "this is an area where prisoners aren't allowed. If it weren't for the alcohol and cigarettes you gave me," Liana nodded sympathetically. "Because this is a place where nobles are imprisoned, even in the central wing of Cambericum where I stay. All the guards are knights. The male lead is closely monitored by many knights, but before the novel starts." Hans shrugged. "They're so sloppy you can snoop around just by bribing them." "Hey, mister," Liana said, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "I just have one request. Can I take a look over there?" "What? You can't." Liana murmured, trying to look as pleading as possible. "Even if you look at me like that, I won't let you." It's almost time for the warden to come. As Hans turned away, Liana managed to sneak a glance into the cell. She saw a figure that took her breath away. Lichterland von Hell, the male lead. Her heart raced as she observed him. There's still some left," Hans yelled, realizing he had dropped some alcohol and cigarettes. "Have a good time," Liana called after him, though her attention was fully on the cell's occupant. "Do you like them?" Hans asked, his voice slightly muffled. Of course," Liana answered absent-mindedly. "How on earth do you get high-quality liquor and cigarettes?" "Who knows? I just write letters to my older brother, and he sends me some," Hans explained as he continued gathering the fallen items. Liana's gaze remained fixed on Lichterland. "Just for a little while," she urged. As Hans left, Liana could see the condition of the cell. Lichterland was pacing around, barking like a wild animal. The sight was jarring. "Wow, Lichterland is really handsome," Liana thought, her admiration mixed with shock. "Is he alive?" Suddenly, Lichterland's behavior took a bizarre turn. He was growling and barking, clearly acting like a beast. "So this is why people call him a beast," Liana murmured. He's really barking like a dog. She watched in disbelief as he snapped at anything within reach, grabbing a dirty stick and using it to play. This won't do, Liana decided. She approached carefully, trying to calm him down. Now, look here, she said, holding out a softer object. This one's softer, boing boing. Cute, right? It's better, isn't it? Lichterlin, surprisingly, took the object and seemed to calm down. Liana smiled. That's right, very good. Good job. Good boy. She couldn't help but wonder about the nature of the man she was dealing with. Is he a person or an animal? She wondered aloud. But more pressing was her next concern. What have I done to deserve this? The scene shifted as Liana's internal struggle continued, leaving her to wonder about the future. Liana's mind was racing as she tried to make sense of the chaotic scene before her. She looked at Lichterlin von Hell, who had just calmed down, and her confusion was palpable. What have you done to me? She stammered, her eyes wide with shock. What the hell is this situation? She thought, grappling with the reality of the moment. So this is what he's like when he comes back to his senses. Lichterlin looked at her with an expression that mixed confusion and vulnerability. This is the first time that somebody— Wait, stop right there, he said, realizing the potential misunderstanding. If anybody hears you right now, they'll misunderstand. Liana was taken aback. But you really— So fluffy, she said, unable to suppress her bewilderment. No, it's not like that, Lichterlin replied, shaking his head. First of all, sorry for throwing that branch earlier. Liana was astonished. Why, you're also the first person to ever apologize to me. Hey, take it easy, Lichterlin said, trying to calm her down. Listen well. The first time isn't important. You'll see kindness again in the future. You surely won't remember this moment. Liana's gaze fell on Lichterlin's hand, which she had accidentally touched. Why your hand? She exclaimed. Huh? What about my hand? Lichterlin asked, puzzled. No, more importantly. Liana continued, flustered. Did you listen to what I said? Why, you can't just hold a man's hand without permission. Lichterlin looked at her with a mixture of embarrassment and confusion. You were just barking so loudly earlier, and now you're suddenly crying. Who are you? Lichterlin asked, clearly disoriented. Liana shook her head, struggling to process the bizarre turn of events. I don't know about the young adult Lichterlin, but right now, you're just a mess. The situation was surreal and confusing, leaving both of them in a state of bewilderment. As Lichterlin tried to regain his composure, Liana wondered what would come next in this strange and unpredictable encounter. Liana's mind was still reeling from the bizarre encounter with Lichterlin. She couldn't help but reflect on the unusual situation. I don't know about the young adult Lichterlin, she thought, but this child is a little— I like handsome men more than pretty boys. I didn't know he was such a crybaby in his youth. For years sure changes a person a lot. Her reverie was interrupted by a call. Liana, time's up. Yes, she replied, realizing she needed to leave. I have to go now. Sorry I suddenly held your hand. As she moved away from the dungeon, she mused about her first visit. The first time I went to the dungeon, I thought it was darker and gloomier than expected, and he was younger than I thought. She reflected on the peculiarities of the prison. The lamp had been far away, so she hadn't seen the full expression on Lichterlin's face. Now in Cambericum's central drawing room, she noticed the luxury that contrasted sharply with the grim reality of the dungeon. They look like they're having fun. Where have you ever seen a prison like this? Maybe it's because royalty and the aristocracy still exist, even in a prison setting. The room was filled with luxurious meals and desserts, and there were even activities, though it was odd that most people still wore prison uniforms. Now this is really the first time, she noted, spotting a new perfume being showcased. Is this the newest perfume? How is it? 6,000, right? As she contemplated the lavish surroundings, she kept hearing about first times recently. Lichterlin had mentioned last night that she was his first time, which seemed to be a common development leading to romance. However, she knew that such events wouldn't occur in the novel due to the restraints on Lichterlin. The male lead's restraints had to be removed for him to escape the prison, and only the female lead could release him as his chosen companion. To Lichterland, she was the only person who could give him true freedom. Because of that, they'll be out of here in 4 years, she thought. I don't know when I'll be released. Seeing her sigh, a voice interrupted her thoughts. Are you thinking about being released? Liana glanced at Baron Pilatus, who was known for his fraud charges. Well, is that new? You really are a criminal. That's why you're in this prison. Pilatus responded with a smirk. Nobles can be punished as much as needed to demonstrate the emperor's authority. Characteristic, a chatterbox. Wow, Liana said, not particularly impressed. Yes, do you not have any other stories? Oh, what would you like to hear, miss? Pilatus inquired, his tone suddenly more engaging. Liana hesitated before asking, Mister, tell me a fun story. Oh, all right. What story would you like to hear? Then, Liana said, please tell me a story about Dormulet. Pilatus's eyes lit up. The Dormulet Duchy? One of the 3 ducal families in this kingdom? The main villain of the original story is part of this family. As he began, Liana listened intently, hoping to uncover more about the villain's future actions. The Empire's Black Rose, Dormulet, Pilatus said. Recently, Dormulet had done something again. They say that some time ago at an underground auction house, Dormulet bought chests filled with jewelry. Could His Majesty's tiara be in one of those chests? In the novel, the female lead found the Emperor's tiara in the villain's house. Aren't all auctions, especially royal auctions, illegal? Liana mused. Pilatus shook his head. What does the law have to do with blooming underground? As soon as the rumor spread, the royal family searched Dormulet, but they couldn't find anything. There wasn't enough evidence. He continued, that man is really skillful. I'm talking about the little Duke Chaser Luff Dormulet. Sounds right? Liana's interest piqued. Have you heard about Dormulet's true treasure? Pilatus nodded. Other than the Duke and his son, there's also one more member, a really unfortunate one. The villain's younger sister. She dies of a chronic disease before the novel even starts. Despite the grimness of the story, Liana was intrigued. Anyway, Dormulet stole the tiara. This conversation is going the same way as the criminal story. She decided to change the subject. Now, why don't you try talking as well? Did you enjoy the experience you mentioned before? It was good, Pilatus admitted. I liked it. As Liana considered her next move, she asked, Mister, do you perhaps know a way to meet the warden? Pilatus offered a suggestion. Hey, how about a walk? Don't you want to go on one? Pilatus gestured towards the exit with a hopeful smile. A walk. Don't you want to go on one? Liana's attention was abruptly pulled away by the cacophony from the dungeon. Lichterland, still in a state of disarray, was barking and growling uncontrollably. Grr. Bark, bark, bark. Woof, woof. Ruff, he continued, his behavior erratic. This again, Liana sighed, frustrated. At least make yourself presentable. I can't come to the dungeon every day, no matter how much I bribe the guards. It took me 3 days to come back. She observed Lichterland's chaotic state and murmured, It's so easy to be him. There's no sort of switch to turn him back to normal. Down, boy, she commanded, trying to calm him. Growling. Is growling the only thing you know how to do? Can you understand what I'm saying? Lichterland's glare was intense, but he remained silent. Liana wondered aloud. But why don't you talk like a person? Are you only able to understand words? You're so good at glaring. She tried a different approach, holding out a piece of bread. Do you like bread? Lichterland's ears perked up at the sight of the bread. He responded eagerly. I snuck in. No, brought some from the kitchen, Liana said, feeling a bit like Jean Valjean in her attempt to offer kindness. Do you want some? Woof. Lichterland barked in response, clearly interested. Repeat after me, Liana instructed. Asterisk yes, please. Asterisk arf arf arf. Lichterland seemed to understand her, but he was still barking like a dog. Why are you barking like a dog? Growling. Wait. I'm not saying I'm not giving you any. If you eat it all at once, you might choke. She hesitated, then added, "Look over here. What did I tell you? You will choke if you eat it too quickly, so you have to eat slowly. Do you only know how to eat like that? Gosh, don't bite me. Just try biting me, and I'll kick you. Got it?" Lichterland's expression softened, and he seemed to be calming down. Thank you," he muttered, his voice shaky. Please keep your hands away from me." Liana observed him, realizing he had come back to his senses. Until just now, you were well from my hand," she said. If you're not going to take responsibility, please don't touch me." "Responsibility?" Lichterland asked, puzzled. Liana shook her head. "But the person responsible for you is someone else. For example, the female lead or the female lead. If not, then the female lead. Pretty, kind, and capable. She can even take off that restraint. She's just perfect. That's why I'm just here to take it easy." She noticed Lichterland's reluctance to admit hunger. "Aren't you hungry?" "I am not," Lichterland replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's okay, it's fine," Liana reassured him. "You don't have to be shy about being hungry." Liana's voice softened with concern as she spoke to Lichterland. "Do they starve you? A person with that kind of blood shouldn't be starved." Lichterland's gaze was distant, the shadows of his predicament evident. "T2," he stammered, his voice trembling. "It's too harsh if that's the kind of food they give you." Liana shook her head. "The prisoners at the central wing have plenty to eat. Come over here and eat. They have a lot." "And no, I'm okay," Lichterland protested. "Should I go?" Liana asked, her concern growing. "Gigio, I just came here." "Now, eat," she instructed firmly. "I can eat on my own." "With those hands," Liana interjected. "Just open your mouth. Not like that. Follow me." "I am not a child," Lichterland retorted, but Liana ignored his protests. "Yes, you're not a child," she said patiently. "It's just that. This is the first time that somebody's feeding me," Lichterland admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Now, be quiet, and I'll feed you little by little," Liana said gently. "I have to go soon, so I'm helping you out quickly. And can you stop with all the first times? Open wide. Come on." Lichterland responded, taking a bite. "Excuse me, I only helped you eat?" Liana asked, puzzled. "Why, you touched my lips and my hands." "Then I won't touch your lips and feed you through your nostrils," Liana quipped. "Touching my cheek too." "I was just wiping off the—" Liana started, but Lichterland's discomfort was clear. I got it. I'll be careful next time." Liana glanced around at the dark, oppressive environment of the cell. Ugh, it really is dark in here. Prisoners get everything at the central wing: delicious food, tea time, chances to go on walks. However, Lichterland isn't allowed any of those things. The male lead has to endure a setting with nothing but hardships. She looked at Lichterland sympathetically. "I don't think you wanted to live like this. Hey, isn't it too dark in here? You don't even see the sun and it smells. The prisoners here go out for a walk once a day. All you see is a bunch of dried grass and withered flowers. Don't you want to go for a walk? It's natural for all the prisoners." "I think it should be natural for Lichterland too." Lichterland's curiosity was piqued. "Excuse me, what's a walk? That's what you were stuck on?" Liana asked, a bit exasperated. "We're going outside." "I can't go outside though," Lichterland said hesitantly. "And if you can?" Liana pressed. "Will you go?" Lichterland's silence seemed to confirm his willingness. "I think that silence means yes. If you want to go out, I'll make it happen." Liana's resolve was firm, though she wasn't entirely sure how. "A walk must be permitted by the chief warden. Even if I ask for an audience, I doubt he'd meet with me." As if on cue, a voice interrupted her thoughts. "Please come in, Lady Liana." Liana was taken aback. "This fast? What's this? Nobody's here." She noticed papers left behind and thought, "Wait, did he just leave the papers here?" She examined the system that managed the prison. Guards made up of junior and mid-level knights, wardens above them, and at the top, the chief warden. The chief warden is one of the main characters of the book, Liana reflected. He's Chasers, the main villain, hands and feet. A man who is no less evil than Chaser. Why does a man who lacks nothing reveal himself to the world as Chaser's aide? He had a one-sided love for Chaser's unnamed little sister. A surprisingly pure-hearted man who is a villain. A voice interrupted her thoughts. Who are you? Oh, I am the one who requested for a meeting, Liana said, her mind racing. Lady Liana, I presume? It's a pleasure to meet you, the man said. I came to meet with the chief warden, but why is this man here? This man's name is Renard Tuss Valtiz, Liana noted. A supporting character in the book. I came since you were looking for me. Renard, a notable figure in the prison hierarchy, was a character she hadn't expected to encounter. Renard Tuss Valtiz's eyes were sharp as he addressed Liana. Yes, I had a favor to ask. Liana nodded, her expression earnest. What's your request? Renard continued. The prisoners of this place are treated fairly. Liana's eyebrows furrowed slightly. On the surface, yes. But you mean there's more going on? Renard pressed. From here on, it's important. You commit a felony and are not indeed. Everyone can take a walk or enjoy a hobby. That's right. Liana looked at him, puzzled. Talking with the prisoners? There is a young man alone in solitary confinement. Such things are rarely heard of. Even going on a walk is prohibited. But he's from the central wing, so he hasn't committed a major crime. Renard's gaze softened slightly. You care about that prisoner? Liana nodded, her concern evident. Yes, correct. Renard sighed. I see. That's not a trivial matter. Also, I have a younger sibling, so I couldn't pretend I didn't see anything. Liana's eyes widened. A younger sibling? Yes, Renard confirmed. Not sure if Liana has younger relatives. Liana shook her head. No way. There aren't any younger relatives of mine here yet. It was only after Chaser appeared that... Renard interrupted. Please, be allowed to go on a walk tonight? I'll think about it, he said. What? Liana was taken aback. You said you'd think about it? But why? It was supposed to be straightforward. I said I'd think about it, Renard repeated calmly. If I had said no, I would have provided an appropriate alternative. Liana was puzzled. What do you mean? Renard looked at her with a hint of concern. You have already told father that you will do whatever it takes. Huh. Yes, my father. What do they have to do with this? Liana frowned, her mind racing. The wardens and the people. Are they to be capable of handling this? Yes, Renard replied. The young prisoner Liana mentioned was a criminal related to a magical matter. I'll be okay with this much, especially since I was asked by your brother. Liana's face showed a mix of relief and contemplation. All right then. Thank you. Renard gave a nod, his demeanor respectful but firm. I'll arrange it. Please be patient. As Liana left, she felt a weight lift slightly, knowing that her request for the prisoner's well-being might be addressed. The intricacies of the prison's politics and the relationships between its inhabitants were becoming clearer, but the path forward remained uncertain. Liana approached Renard with a mix of apprehension and hope. You won't be just like my brother, will you? I don't even know his face. Renard looked at her with a serious expression. Miss Liana, even if it's not a promise, it's my honor to fulfill your request. At no cost. Please come again. As Liana left the office, she couldn't shake off the feeling of dread. The ominous nature of Renard's presence left her uneasy. The next day brought its own set of challenges. Liana approached the prison, and a guard greeted her with concern. Ah, Liana. Today is a bit dangerous. Please be careful. Huh. Liana looked puzzled. The floor is slippery. There's mud. You could get dirty today. And the prisoners often scream. Scream? Liana asked, noting the guard's worry. The guard nodded gravely. Yes, they often scream. As Liana ventured further, she noticed an unusual number of puddles on the ground. The constant dripping sound filled the air, creating an eerie atmosphere. The prison was silent except for the occasional sound of barking. Liana frowned as the barking grew louder. Huh? Why are there so many puddles? The sound was accompanied by more barking and rough noises. It was as if the prison itself was alive with a strange, unsettling energy. Liana noticed that the noise seemed to get louder, almost as if something, or someone, was deliberately trying to make itself heard. A sudden memory flashed in her mind. A young man named Druin, who had been cruelly treated by his family. His father, the Grand Duke, had treated him harshly, leading to his fear of water. The details were haunting. Despite his powerful abilities, Druin had struggled to control his strength, leading to his abandonment. Liana shook her head, trying to focus on the present. She heard a faint, melodious sound and turned to see Renard approaching with a small bell and some cookies. "Do you like the sound of bells?" Renard asked, trying to lighten the mood. "This is better than the sound of rain, right?" Liana's tense expression softened as she took the bell and the cookies. "Thank you." Renard then noticed Liana was drenched. "You're all wet. Let's clean you up a little. Can beasts catch colds?" Liana was startled by the question. "Huh? I'm not sure." She felt a bit of relief as Renard's concern was genuine. Despite the strange and unsettling atmosphere, it seemed like some kindness still managed to shine through. Liana was struggling to keep her composure as she tried to make sense of the chaos around her. "Hold on. Wait a minute. Excuse me. Wait a minute." Her eyes widened in horror as she saw a strange sight. A rose petal falling from the sky, scattering around her. "What is that? Is that a rose petal? You have to meet your partner before those petals disappear." She recoiled in disbelief. "No, this is too obscene. Wait, don't come near me." Suddenly, there was a sharp pain. "Ack, that hurt. Why did you?" Her face was burning, and she noticed a new, inexplicable sensation on her hand. In my face. What? The confusion was palpable as the figure in front of her, Renard, seemed both flustered and bemused. "Let's get this straight. You were the one who licked my hand." Liana's eyes widened in shock. "Elle licked?" "Yeah, you licked me," Renard confirmed with a nonchalant shrug. "The cookie was yummy, but why was your hand?" Liana was struggling to process it all. "Aha, did you see my hand as a cookie?" Renard's expression softened. "So, that's all you think about when you lose your sanity. Do you remember it all?" Liana asked, her voice trembling. Renard's face grew serious. Yes, it was an irresistible urge. Liana could barely contain her embarrassment. "It really was my first time." Renard gave a light chuckle. So you're embarrassed with your whole body. It's kind of cute." "No. What is the male lead of an X-rated novel doing?" Liana wondered aloud. Renard glanced at her, a playful smirk on his lips. "Now that I see you're doing well, I'll get going." Wait. What's your name?" Liana called out as he turned to leave. "Liana," he responded, his voice fading as he walked away. "See you later." As the rain continued to pour, Liana made her way home, her thoughts tangled with the events of the day. She decided not to visit Druin again, reflecting on the time she had failed to keep a safe distance. "It's a good thing I managed to get out of there back then. I could have gotten hurt." She sighed as she thought about the mysterious letters she had been receiving. When she first opened her eyes in this world, she had found a blank letter on the desk, accompanied by a small note. "I'll buy you everything you want." Since then, blank letters had arrived every month, always giving her whatever she asked for. It was only later that she realized these letters were from Liana's older brother, a gesture that left her with a lingering question. "There's nothing I can give him now." Liana paced nervously in her room, glancing at the clock. "Because the letters from my brother aren't coming. It's late. It usually takes 2 days, if they're quick, at the latest. I only need one more letter. After a week and 5 days, it still hasn't come. Am I being a bother now? Or is something else happening?" Her thoughts were interrupted by Sir Pilatus, who had approached her with concern. "What's bothering you, miss?" Liana looked up, startled. "Ah, Sir Pilatus. You look like you were deep in thought." "It's not a big deal," she replied. "Anyway, do you have a new story to tell?" Sir Pilatus nodded, his expression grave. "There was a huge arson incident in the city." "Arson?" Liana asked, her interest piqued. "Yes," Sir Pilatus confirmed. "In that big commercial city. The culprit is none other than Dormulit's next heir." "Dormulit?" Liana's eyes widened. Isn't he the villain of the story? That's right. Chaser Luff Dormulet. The next heir has finally revealed his ambition. Sir Pilatus explained. What does that have to do with arson? Liana inquired. The fire was started in an area under Grand Duke von Hell's command, Sir Pilatus elaborated. It's a clash of two families, the Red Rose and the Black Rose. Those two are sworn enemies with a long rivalry. One side is the protagonist's family, while the other is the villain's. Liana's mind raced. In the book, blood was shed every day when the families fought, and the two leads were involved in a love triangle. That's right, Sir Pilatus agreed. Chaser is a smart young man, but he crossed the line this time. Grand Duke von Hell was able to find evidence. That's huge, Liana said, her eyes widening. What happened next? Right now, Chaser is missing, Sir Pilatus revealed. He used the fire as a distraction so he could kill Lycadruin's father sooner. Free time is over now. Anyway, this arson incident is a big deal. Chaser must be in hiding for a while. Liana's face fell. So, what was the miss worrying about? Oh, nothing, Sir Pilatus said, waving a hand dismissively. It's just that I haven't received any letters from my older brother. Is that the brother who sends you letters every month? Sir Pilatus asked. Yes, Liana confirmed. It seems something must have happened. Don't worry too much, Sir Pilatus reassured her. Thank you. As Sir Pilatus left, Liana found herself alone, pondering the strange situation. The letters from my older brother. I wasn't abandoned, right? The next day, she received unsettling news. Liana, did you hear? They caught the true culprit behind the arson incident. But the Grand Duke was seriously injured while in pursuit of the criminal. Really? Liana's eyes widened. So Chaser isn't the real culprit. Or maybe he made it look like he wasn't? Yes, that's right, Sir Pilatus confirmed. Chaser first attracted Lycadruin's attention during the arson incident and then later attempted to kill Lycadruin's father. It looks like it was this exact incident. Liana's heart sank. Will Lycadruin's father die soon? I have to go back early today, Liana decided. Oh, are you leaving? Sir Pilatus nodded. Come to think of it, he has returned. He's a very impressive young man. How did he convince people to believe him? I'd really like to meet him once. Liana turned to Sir Pilatus. Mister, do you think I can meet someone like that? Why not? Sir Pilatus said with a smile. You might. Don't you know how different the future will be? Returning to her room, Liana found a letter that had finally arrived from her brother. Ah, a letter from my brother. It really has been a while. She opened it, her eyes scanning the contents. Hello, Liana. Have you been well? My lovely younger sister. His handwriting was elegant and familiar. I'm doing good. Liana smiled but felt a pang of worry. What's this? Requesting liquor and premium cigarettes? A whole lot of them. It seemed that her brother had been sending these requests for quite some time. A few days later, Liana found herself dealing with Lord Soga. Lord Soga, please spare me. Please, Sir Chaser. I made a mistake, pleaded Lord Soga, his voice trembling. It's nothing at all, Chaser responded dismissively. I have to send some more liquor over to Cambercam. My lovely younger sister wishes for it. Liana's thoughts swirled as she contemplated the recent events and her brother's mysterious letter. The rain had finally stopped, and Liana took a deep breath, feeling the fresh air after days of gloomy weather. I'm glad the rain passed, but why am I like this? She muttered under her breath, still feeling uneasy despite the clear skies. Across from her, Renard, the guard who often accompanied her, noticed her hesitation. Aren't you going to eat? Startled, Liana quickly composed herself. Of course. I'm eating. Thank you. I'll eat well, she replied, forcing a smile as she looked down at the meal in front of her. The table was filled with various dishes, but her appetite seemed to be missing today. On such a bright day, Liana couldn't help but feel her thoughts drifting elsewhere. Am I having jealousy over such trivial things? She wondered, lost in her emotions. Breaking her train of thought, Renard spoke again, this time with a more serious tone. Some time ago, I was told the guardsmen were calling for you. There's a meeting awaiting your presence. Liana blinked in confusion. A meeting? Is there a reason you called for me? She asked, not expecting any such request. Renard stood, extending his hand with something that shimmered in the light. There's something I must give you. It's Miss Liana's hairpin. Liana's eyes widened. A hairpin? Is it from my brother? She asked, taking the delicate piece in her hand, her heart racing at the thought. Renard nodded. Yes, it's from your brother. He wanted you to have it. She carefully examined the hairpin, realizing it was a part of a collection of gifts her brother had sent. Due to your brother's orders, Renard continued, I doubt there will be anyone who can call for you in this castle, even if you wanted them to. Liana looked up, feeling a bit uneasy. Oh, of course, I already knew everyone. So I told them to call me Liana, she said softly. My brother's orders. Thank you for caring for me. I'm sure my brother and father are also grateful. Renard shifted slightly, his tone softening. Is that what they said? His voice held a hint of something unspoken, but he quickly added, like I thought, you were kind, different from others. Huh. Liana looked at him, surprised by his words. What makes you say that? They're good people, Renard said, glancing away. But I can tell, you care for them deeply. The moment felt heavy, but Renard quickly changed the subject. Since the rain stopped, you can take a walk with that young prisoner you mentioned. However, there will be several guards with you. Is that all right? Liana smiled, relieved by the shift in conversation. Yes, that's all right. As they prepared for the walk, Liana noticed the bright sunlight. The weather's perfect, she said happily. How long has it been since we had a walk like this? Liana asked, glancing at Renard. But her excitement was tempered when she noticed a group of guards, and Renard's face grew more serious. Those guards, aren't they the mid-level ones? The ones who only deal with criminals? Liana asked, her smile fading. That's not a walk, that's abuse, Renard muttered under his breath, clearly upset. Hold on, I'll go ask the guards. Liana watched him go, but then she caught something odd. Renard, what are you even paying attention to? She whispered to herself, watching as he made eye contact with one of the prisoners in the distance. It was a fleeting moment, but it sent a chill down her spine. Liana stood there in disbelief, her heart sinking as the guard spoke. Huh? I just asked the guards, and they said he's a magical prisoner? Her thoughts were spinning. Where did Licdorwin go? She asked, looking around. The guard's expression tightened. He ran away. Liana's heart ached. Why did it hurt so much? She didn't understand the feelings stirring inside her. Renard, noticing her expression, furrowed his brow. Why does Liana look heartbroken? He wondered out loud. Hey, I worked hard to earn the permission for you to take a walk, but you ran away. Renard called after Licdorwin, frustration evident in his voice. Licdorwin stood frozen, not knowing how to respond. Why, yeah, I should ask for his reasoning, Renard continued, stepping closer. So, why did you run away? Licdorwin stammered, huh. Renard sighed. Don't start getting all red. You haven't done anything yet. That will be done in the future, huh? He teased, leaning in. What are you gonna do? Do you want to get beat up? Licdorwin flinched. Heek. He didn't seem hurt, but there was something deeper, something unspoken. Renard noticed it too. It doesn't seem like he's hurting anywhere. That's a relief, he muttered, softening his tone. Well, if it's no big deal, I'll get going. I only came because I was curious. Renard began to turn, but Licdorwin's trembling voice stopped him. Wait, why didn't you come to my room? I waited, shamefully, but you never came. Renard raised an eyebrow, caught off guard. I was out of alcohol or cigarettes, he said with a shrug, trying to play it off, but Licdorwin's next words cut deeper. Is this our last meeting? Hey, I didn't say that, Renard replied, noticing Licdorwin trembling slightly. He's been abandoned like this before? Renard thought to himself, feeling a pang of guilt. Now I'm starting to feel bad. Hey, did you like the walk? I asked for it. Are you thankful? Renard asked, trying to lighten the mood. Next time, let's take a walk together. He paused, thinking. When we meet again, what should I call you? My name? No, wait. If we're taking a walk, wouldn't master work too? He joked with a smirk. Lictorwin blinked, unsure how to respond. Renard chuckled. It's a joke. I'm going. Next time we have a walk, don't run away. As Renard turned to leave, a sudden bark interrupted the moment. ARR? Bark. Renard looked back, surprised. Huh, you only bark stupid things when comfortable, he said, shaking his head with a smile. Just then, Liana arrived. It's been a while, Liana, Renard greeted her. She nodded, her gaze shifting between Renard and Lictorwin. Hi, isn't this uncomfortable? She asked, noticing the tension. Renard shrugged. No, it's not uncomfortable. Liana, still eyeing Lictorwin, noticed something around his neck. But, what's this on your neck? She asked. It's a necklace for magical criminals, Renard explained. Should I say it's like a dragon collar, in case of a magic attack or a runaway attempt? Lictorwin stood still as Renard continued. If you pull on the leash while it tries to run away, the magic will activate immediately. Liana nodded. Thank you for the explanation. But there was something off. Doesn't this crazy bastard see that it hurts? She thought, her heart aching for Lictorwin. Suddenly, Lictorwin gasped, his body convulsing. Lictorwin? Liana called out, worry creeping into her voice. It's a seizure, one of the guards shouted. He's trying to run away. Raise your swords. The guards drew their weapons, the tension in the air thickening as they prepared to deal with the situation.